Welcome to Insights into Success, where with your host Paul Dodds, we hope to educate, inspire and motivate you to achieve your own personal success. We talk to guests from all around the world from a variety of walks of life to hear the realities of their own journey to success. What challenges have they faced? How have they coped with failure? And what have been the keys or will be the keys to their own success? In our Read to Succeed interviews, we talk books that have inspired our guests, and for some, they share their secrets to marketing success. Join us as we give you insights into success. Well, welcome back to Insights into Success, where in this interview, we're going to talk Read to Succeed. Now, we're going to guest back Brent Freeman, and if you haven't listened to his interview that we did recently, definitely go ahead and do it. It's truly amazing and a lot of fantastic content. So Brent has agreed to share with us insights into some books that he's read, what they are, what they're about, and what he's got out of them. So I've got no idea what you're about to say, Brent. So the floor is yours. What books are you going to share with us?
Yeah. So I think it's first important to understand that I am not a traditional reader in the sense of I open up a book and I read it cover to cover. That model actually didn't work for me. I have ADD, I have dyslexia, and with that, it created a barrier for learning for kind of the first 25 years of my life. And then I discovered books on tape, Audible, not just books on tape. I had obviously discovered those previously, but it was when I could listen to books at 2x speed that my comprehension just went through the roof. And so I probably read, I don't know, 5-7 books of my entire life between the ages of 0 and, 25. I mean, honestly, like cover to cover. Yeah. And then since then, I've probably done over 300 plus, right? And through Audible. Now, books that I listen and I really, really love and enjoy, I buy them physically, and then I do go back and I read them physically because I've already kind of understood what's going on there, and that helps me. Yeah. And so I think it's important for anybody out there listening that isn't a quote unquote reader or has trouble. There are other ways to do it to ingest content, right?
So why 2x? Why do you listen to it at 2x?
I speak fast, I talk fast, I listen fast, and it just helps my comprehension. And so when it's 1x, I think it's the ADD that's me. Oh my God, it's so boring, right? Like, hurry up and get it out. And so I typically listen to it at 2x when I'm walking or working out or something along those lines of getting moving, because I don't know if this is true. I'd have to double check the science on this, but a friend of mine told me, very smart guy, fellow, went to Harvard. He told me that there's something around the conduction that happens when you're moving of your bones physically that conducts into a way into your auditory system that allows you to comprehend it more. I'm not sure if that's true. Oh, wow. So I could be lying right to your face, but I thought it was
sounds good. Sounds impressive.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. Now, okay. So
before you go on, can I just while I remember,
sure.
and I've never tried this, but it was suggested to me recently, and this may work for you or may not, I don't know. But another guess, what they do is they listen to the audio and they read the book at the same time. Yeah. And he reckoned that was an amazing thing to do. It really lifted it to another level. So I haven't tried it yet, but might be with a go.
I think that's also a good thing. It just requires me to physically be there with the book. And again, I like to, when I go for a walk, take my dog out or whatever it may be, I like to be able to be moving personally, and that works for me.
Sure. All right. Okay. What books are you going to share with us?
So the must read for every entrepreneur is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Period. End of story. It's the Entrepreneur's Bible, Law of Attraction, all centered around subconscious priming. Was a game changer in my life early on in my entrepreneurial career. Building on that, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Also a must read, understanding, how to begin with the end in mind and design a life around how you want to be remembered in this case. And it's a fundamentally critical book. One of the classics that needs to be read as a parable is The Richest Man in Babylon. I think what that does is it's really easy, simple read, but it's just a timeless classic parable around how to go after what you want and get it. I think one of the more life-changing books was Victor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, I've read that book. That's quite an amazing book, isn't it? Just the whole reality of being in a concentration camp and how some people mentally coped with it and got through it, and how other people couldn't. Extraordinary
Yeah.
circumstances to think what they went through. And
Yes.
just one thing I'd say too, through this whole thing of COVID and lockdown, just got a very small sample what it must be like to be, contained. But it's nothing compared to what it must have been for people in concentration camps or in prisoner of war camps in World War II. They didn't know when it was going to end. They didn't know. They didn't know who was going to win the war. And if you're in a concentration camp, I mean, of course, you didn't know if you're going to be alive tomorrow or the next day. How tough must that have been mentally on these people?
Yeah.
You
can't even comprehend it, you can't even, and so this, I think it should be required reading, Victor Frankl's book, for every human on the planet, because what it boils down to is when you are stripped of absolutely everything, the only thing you're left in control of is the space between stimulus and response, and how you react, and how in your conscious mind. And he goes through and tells his story of Auschwitz and why he wasn't the strongest or the biggest or the most skilled or whatever to survive. But what he did is he was able to say, they can take everything from my possessions, my dignity, my health, all these things, but they can't take my mental hope, my mental space between stimulus and response. I mean, honestly, that book right there, if your listeners don't listen to anything other than that that is it for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a fantastic book.
Non-business book, but a book that changed my life is called Attached by Amir Levine.
Okay.
And Attached is a book talking about emotional trauma in relationships, and how we bring emotional baggage, what's called attachment style, into relationships and how they interact with each other. And we all bring something in some way to a relationship, romantic or otherwise. And it for me was a game changer of placing blame on another and being able to say, oh, this isn't their fault, or this isn't my fault, or I'm not a bad person, or they're not a bad person. This is something that happened when I was young and caused this. And when this interacts with that, it creates this. And wow, I'm not alone. And so Attached, it's called, I think it's like the new science of something or other. But it's really, really, really a beautiful, mind-blowing book in a lot of ways.
Wow, you've given us a lot of books.
I got more, man. I got more.
Wow.
Let me think. Let me just drop into like what is a fundamental one. If you're talking about, there's a carry-on to the Napoleon Hill series called 3 Feet from Gold that is interesting, that I could recommend on that. We talked about it on our podcast together, which is The Power of Habit. Really understanding how habits are formed, the cue, routine, reward cycle. That was a fundamental game changer. And then the list goes on and on. You can build from there. And here's the hack that I use when I now listen to books is if in the book they're making a suggestion or reference to another book, I immediately buy it, download it, and then listen to it. And I kind of follow that train.
Right. So basically, from what you're saying, you predominantly everything is audio. Occasionally, you'll buy a hardcover book or you buy a physical book.
I buy books that have had a massive impact of my life, and so in my kind of living room library, I have maybe 100 books out of the some odd 100 or maybe 75 that really have an impact in my life. And there's actually one by a coach of mine that I'd be remiss not to mention, a guy named Alden Mills. He wrote a book called Be Unstoppable. I think it's like the 8 essential actions to succeed or something along. Be Unstoppable. Author is Alden Mills. He's former Navy SEAL commander that turned entrepreneur, that invented something called the perfect push-up and created a business out of it and was fastest growing consumer product company in the US. Then turned motivational speaker, entrepreneurial coach, keynote speaker, all of that. This was a book that he wrote to his boys. And when you're a Navy SEAL, you have to write letters to your children in case you come home in a body bag. And this was his, if I had to if I had to leave my children today, and what would I tell them? And it is a really powerful, beautiful, well-written book centered around how to succeed.
Wow. And just one final question. It sounds like a fantastic book, but one final question, like with books that really you connect with, do you tend to listen to them again? Like, do you just listen to them once, or do you bring them back every so often, maybe as required, as you feel you need them, and re-listen to them?
Yes. I listen and re-listen to books at different stages of my life and get different things out of them. So I have Think and Grow Rich, the hardcover, really beautiful version of it, on my bedside, and I will pull it open, read passages through it. I'll bring it with me when I'm traveling, just to kind of read through it and spark. Another great one by Dr. Joe Dispenza is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Really understanding the neuroscience of how to create new habits and through meditation and all that. It's brilliant. And I might read something in that book, or Napoleon Hill, or 7 Habits of Highly Effective People now that didn't mean anything to me a couple of years ago, that now is just like so relevant because I've grown. So I do pick these things back up over time, or re-listen to them based upon where I am in my journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, I think, books are about timing. At different times of your life, you can get different things out of them. They can, sometimes the timing might not be right. You don't get a lot out of a book, but then you pick it up 2 years later, and suddenly you're seeing all these things that you couldn't see the first time around.
Yes, that's exactly it. And it should be like that, right? Because we are meant to be an evolving, growing human species. And when we get into the complacency stage, or when we get into like the stuck stage, these books can help us expand our horizons, expand our, people have come before and spent the time to write it into a book. I don't know, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, Brent. Well, I know you've got another appointment to go to, and I'm very privileged to have got nearly a couple of hours out of you. So that's quite an achievement. So thank you so much for that. It's been just full of incredible content. So thank you so much. And
thank you for the time, Paul.
And certainly want to keep in touch. So
definitely stay in touch. Definitely stay in touch.
All right.
Bye, brother.